Watch this.
Can you do an ode to the haggis? Do you know it?
Go again. Fair fire on a sonsy face. Great chieftain o' the pudding race. Yeah, I do know it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is that something you learn at school?
No. I guess it's just I've been to too many burn suppers.
Is that just a Burns night thing?
Yeah, Burns night thing, yeah.
Do they do it at Hogmanay as well?
And no. I mean, it's a Burns supper
Yeah, it's
night.
just a Burns thing.
Burns thing.
Well, how does it go?
It goes. Have we started?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Let's just
okay.
roll into it.
It goes, fair fire on a sonsy face, great chieftain o' the pudding race, aboon them all ye tak your place, pinch, tripe or therm, I think. And then the next bit, I don't know exactly, but it's something like, wheela ye worldale wi' grace, as lang's your arm.
Perfect. Look at that.
Something like that. But
What a
normally
proud
it's like some big
Scotswoman.
burly man that does that with a big, and then they pull the knife out of their kilt sock and they attack the haggis, and it all gets very dramatic from
And
there.
haggis is pretty dialed down from what it used to be. Is that right?
Oh well, I mean I wouldn't describe it as dialed down even now. It's quite spicy. I mean, haggis
Is
has
it?
got a pretty.
But it didn't used to be all cooked in a sheep's stomach or something.
I think it still is.
Oh,
yeah.
is it?
Yeah, I mean, depends where you get it. If you're going to buy it from Sainsbury's, it's probably not
No.
coming in a like sheep's stomach,
Absolutely.
but other supermarkets are available.
I'm sorry, we've changed the way we've done intros. Iona, welcome to the welcome back
Thank you very much.
to the podcast. We're
Thank
sat
you.
here on the final practice day of the ARG Women's Open.
Yeah.
In the wonderful Portrush clubhouse, which I found out doing some research for a film, was rebuilt from a workman's house that they put up for the Diamond Jubilee in 1897.
18.
And they took it down from Crystal
wow.
Palace, brought it all the way here, and then rebuilt it as a temporary clubhouse for Royal Portugal, and now it's the clubhouse.
That's amazing. It's quite a famous clubhouse, isn't it?
That's
And
gorgeous, isn't it?
it's really beautiful. But this is my second visit to Royal Portugal because I came here a couple of months ago to play with the head pro, Peter, who
That's right.
was a charming host. And I think the clubhouse is one of the best bits about this place. It's so charming. And I think this room we're sitting in at least used to be the ladies' room, or maybe it still is the
I think it
ladies'
used
room.
to be, yeah.
There's lots of ladies' memorabilia on the wall.
Yeah, again, it leads through to the ladies' locker room, directly into the ladies' locker room.
And then we've got the Lady Club champions up there on the boards. And when I came the last time, I sat in here and had a wee cup of tea with some of the ladies, and they were so friendly.
Yeah, and then we've pulled the curtains just for lighting, but it's probably got the best view.
Oh, I feel like I could sit in this room for the rest of my life and be very happy and just look out that window with endless cake and coffee and tea being brought to me, and I would die a very happy woman.
Yeah, and Kirsty would bring you lots of cake. She's
Kirsty
fabulous.
is so friendly.
Yeah,
When
she's
she
brilliant.
was just giving me that welcome, I was like, are there friendlier people in the world than the Welsh?
Thank you. No, we're all brilliant.
Yeah.
We are all brilliant.
I could hear that Welsh twang in your voice, but it's a very friendly bunch. I'm
yes.
in love with the Welsh.
Kirsty's very good as well. She is the type of woman that you only need to meet her once, and you can come back a year later. She goes, "Oh, Tom, how you doing?"
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just like, she's just one of those, like Willie at Loch Lomond. I don't know if you ever come across Willie.
Yeah, he's lovely.
He knows, like, met you once, and it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
It's just, well, Loch Lomond. I mean, what a good. I didn't even mean to do that. What a good segue.
There we go. Yeah.
We need to thank today's sponsor of the podcast, which is Loch Lomond Whiskies. They've been helping us with a few things for the last couple of months, and for those of you that haven't listened to the Colin Montgomery podcast, we did that at Woking Golf Club. Please do go back and listen because the stories are fabulous. But on this occasion, they are hooking us up with you, Iona. And
Yes.
how did you get to be involved with Loch Lomond Whiskey?
Well, my introduction to Loch Lomond Whiskey was in 2019 at the Open Championship at Royal Portrush. So this year it felt like that relationship had come full circle.
Come to a close, would you say? That's the end of it.
It's
Come to
been
a
a
close.
brilliant final chapter with Loch Lomond. And it was nice to celebrate our anniversary of when we met at the Open. And honestly, that Open in 2019 was probably the most fun I've ever had at an
Yeah, it's
Open
mega, wasn't
Championship.
it?
And a lot of that was to do with the Q&As and the fun that I had with Loch Lomond. But, you know, I've been really proud to work with them for the last few years because of their connection with the Open Championship and the AIG Women's Open. but also their connection to Scotland, which of course is my homeland, and I'm very proud to be working with a brand that are Scottish, and it feels really good to me. And when I see them out on the road, it's like seeing a little bit of home on the road. Plus, I just love Colin, who I know you've spent time with, and it sounds like you had quite a good time.
Well,
with.
he talks a good game on the podcast because he had a signature edition which he tasted. And
I was talking about Colin Matthews, but I do like Colin Montgomery as well.
Right, okay, yeah. Well, he also talks a good game. So
yeah, Colin Matthews, obviously the CEO, and he's become a good friend. But and all of the people that work within Loch Lomond, I feel like they've become sort of like a family. And I have spent quite a lot of time with Colin Montgomery because we've done different pieces at Royal Troon, obviously in his backyard. We did some fun preview pieces there together, and he taught us about the town and some wee stories he had. So great people. And I feel like with many relationships in life, both in business and not business related relationships, it's like, do you get on well with the people you're working with? And that I can certainly say with Loch Lomond that they have been wonderful to work with. So it's been absolutely easy to stay true to them.
Well, you've talked to Guillaume. We got the product here. So,
yeah, and do you know what?
Are you a big whiskey fan?
I am a whiskey fan, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say this really, but the 2019 Loch Lomond Whiskey Open Special Edition was probably my favourite that they've ever made.
You can say whatever
I
you
can
like,
say that.
Yeah.
I am a whiskey fan.
I think if you'd have said, Jack Daniels was your favourite, that'd be a problem. But no, you can say that.
Of their blends, but they've got some wonderful whiskies, and I can't say I drink it, on the regular, but what I do love to drink is the whiskey cocktails that Loch Lomond Whiskey have introduced me to. And
you had
the
a go at me
Dramble.
for not knowing what a Dramble was.
Yeah, I was disappointed, and I was listening to you guys on the podcast in the last episode. You were like, "Oh, this thing called a Drambly," and I was like, "They're just murdering this. It's the Dramble."
What is in a Dramble?
You've got lemon, blackcurrant, and lots of ice. Some lemonade, and then the 12-year-old. Whiskey.
Is that what we've got here?
I think that is the 12. Yeah, that's the 12.
Single malt.
So you got a bit of the 12-year-old. There's some lemony flavours, some blackcurrant is really what sets it off, and then a little bit of lemonade with ice. So it's very refreshing, and that is dangerous. The Dramble is dangerous.
Well, Peter, who works for us, doesn't drink whiskey, and we went to the Loch Lomond tent, and he had a Dramble. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want anything. But we'll get you like some sort of cocktail, and came back with a Dramble, and he'd had one. He was like, well, I'm going to go get another one of those. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. But they had some new cocktails on the menu this year. Sadly, I didn't get a chance to try them. I wish I'd had more time in that Loch Lomond whiskey tent, but I was too busy out doing loops of the course. Yeah.
Well, you actually were working. You were working really hard, weren't you? Before we get into that.
It's amazing how people forget that I actually work at these things. Cheers.
Well, it's because golf is fun, isn't it? So. Oh, that is nice. This is the 22.
That is absolutely delicious.
The open course edition.
How smooth is that?
It's very smooth, isn't it? The 22-year-old open course. It's actually very lovely. But I'm a big whiskey fan. In my defense, I don't know cocktails because I usually just, if I'm going to drink it, I drink it.
Yeah, you want to drink it just straight up. This is saying Spanish oak casks, which I think there is a nod to the history of the shipwreck that was, I think, a Spanish boat off the coast of Portrush. Out by the Skerries, those islands that you could see. There's a shipwreck out there that I think was a Spanish boat, and a nice little connection there for their 153rd Open Special Edition.
Funny what shipwrecks can do, isn't it? Because there was a shipwreck that the St. Andrew was on. He set sail. They called it St. Rule. He set sail, and wherever Andrew would wreck, that he would create as a town, and that was how St Andrews was created, or where it was created, because there's shipwreck there, and then he went on to create St Andrews.
Is that right?
Yeah,
amazing.
There's a good film about it that was released maybe 4 years ago.
Really? But, on Cookie Jar.
It's one of mine. But
I must find that one.
I'm really interested to talk to you about. I mean, we spoke. Well, we just talked about it before we came on air 5 years ago. Yeah. You were episode 14. So in lots of ways, we have to say, really, really big thank you to you, because you were one of our first ever guests.
Yeah.
Unbelievable,
I'm absolutely
really.
thrilled I was. And it was a pleasure to talk to you then. And absolutely delighted that
Amazing
we've
what
got this
COVID
chance.
boredness can do, isn't it? We were all bored out of our skulls, weren't we? It was,
I was up there in my loft and I turned it into a Loch Lomond whiskey bar, and I was actually making cocktails during COVID and making films about it and putting it on YouTube.
But
this is before I had a YouTube channel, so if anyone goes through the archives of On the Road with Iona, you will find
same channel.
Oh yeah, it's all right there.
Oh,
there are some delusional videos of me kind of half cut in my loft
Are
during
you flaring
lockdown
as well?
What?
Are you flaring? You know,
oh yeah, and absolutely hilariously, in the first one I tried to make a cocktail. I think it was the Dramble. In fact, it wasn't the Dramble. It was one that involved lemon curd and lemonade. It was called the Lemon Highball, and it was a whiskey cocktail. And I obviously am not a bar woman, and I put the lemonade in the shaker. So you were meant to put the lemon curd and the whiskey and then shake it up. Of course, I also put the lemonade, the full, and I start to shake it. The full thing explodes in my face. This is on YouTube somewhere. This is on my channel.
Oh, I must find
and
it.
I'm in this was lockdown, wasn't it? At its peak, I'd gone a bit crazy, and this is what I'd turned into.
We did anything we would do anything to avoid boredom, including going on the Cookie Jar Golf Channel. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, it was a pleasure, and you guys sent me a lovely gift.
It was
after that
the sketch of St Andrews, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
One of Joe
and
McDonald,
I still have it hanging in my office. So thank you very much.
Joe McDonald artworks. He's a fabulous artist, and he does those digital watercolors.
That's right.
But no, I mean, thank you for doing it. And then it all comes around. I mean, like you're waving goodbye to Loch Lomond after a big long
it's been a great
6-year
journey.
partnership. It's all coming full circle again. So I want to touch on a few things in the podcast. Something that not everyone who listens now would have listened back in 2020, and I think your playing career is extraordinary and the story around is extraordinary. I'd like to talk about that. I think I'd really, really like to talk about your content that you're doing now, because it's probably some of the most cutting edge narrative driven pieces that is being produced right now. Before we do, just final bit on partnerships and things. We're lucky to be sponsored by Loch Lomond, but we both happen to work with another company which is also a sponsor of this podcast usually, which is FootJoy. So how long have you been with them?
I have been with FootJoy since 2019, so exactly the same length of partnership. I'm a very loyal, and thankfully these brands have been loyal to me, but I really, I like to be involved with people and brands for the long haul if I can, and I'm very grateful that both Titleist and FootJoy and Loch Lomond Whiskey have been long partnerships that continue to get better every year. But with FootJoy, I've worked with him since 2019, and I've absolutely loved it.
What goes into choosing? Because it's important. Like, it's important for us when we decide to work with brands. What goes into that decision process of this is a brand that I can get on board with?
I think it's there are so many brands in golf now, and I'm very grateful that working in the media has brought lots of opportunities my way. But I think, it's easy for me to say this, and there'll be people out there that go, sure, that's what you think. But genuinely, I want there to be an authenticity to it, and for it to be either a product that I would like to use, I would choose to use. And I'm not, trying to force something. So I think the authenticity to a brand that represents who I am and the stories I'm trying to tell in my little space of golf media are really important. I think it's always a privilege if you can work with brands that can elevate your own brand as well, and that's something that, certain athletes and media people have done really cleverly through their careers. So I'd try to make good decisions about that. And hopefully some brands that eventually will feel that if I'll elevate their brand as well, if I can keep going in this media world. But I think you want to feel that, and then ultimately it comes down to people for me, and certainly within Loch Lomond and both FootJoy, I mean, there have been people there that I'm just so fond of them. They've become like family to me, and we've had a really great relationship. They've really believed in me and encouraged me, and certainly at FootJoy, their umbrella company is called Acushnet, and there's a chap there called Peter Broom, who you may or may not have met, but he was heavily involved in Acushnet and their success over many years. And there'll be lots of people listening to this that know who I'm talking about. And Peter has been like a mentor, a really good friend. And I remember meeting him in 2019, and his kindness and his, kind of just real a trueness to people that you work with. And Peter Broom certainly was that and is that. And that makes me fall in love with these companies, and then I just feel like I'm in, like I can, that's it now. I want to really be part of it and hope that these are long lasting relationships, and that's just how I am as a person. And I'm glad I've got these partnerships, but I've tried to keep the roster of companies I work with to quite a short list, really, because I want to make sure I'm not under delivering and over promising. So
what do you know what that is? So it's one of the things that we try and do with Cookie Jar. And I learned this from an old head mistress when I used to be a teacher back in the day. Is she said to me, "Under promise, over deliver," and it is so important because the opposite is horrendous. I think over promising
really bad. Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, it's just it's the easiest way to let people down.
It is.
So,
yeah.
Under promise, over deliver. You can't really go wrong if you try and work by that mantra, I think. But
yeah, and I think that lots of these brands have grown with me, and both have supported new initiatives that I've had. And as my career's grown, and I've gone to them and said, "Hey, listen, I've got this idea, for this interview or this content piece," and they've gone, "Yeah, sure, we believe in you. We'll give this a go. We're behind you." So I think it's important to not let relationships be passive. You have to be proactive about. The world of activating partnerships. It's all very well saying, okay, now we're partners, like we're brand partners and I'm an ambassador. Well, what does that really mean? How are you going to activate that, and what does it look like? And I think for individuals, like I'm an individual in this space, and now I have obviously my channel On the Road with Iona, which is a much more obvious way of activating things. But prior to that, I didn't have the channel, and I had to really think about be proactive and have initiative about, right, this is a really cool thing we could do together. And every time I've taken it to Loch Lomond or to Titleist and FootJoy, they've gone, yeah, this sounds great. Yeah, we believe in you. And to have that from them has allowed me to do so much of what I've done. So I really owe them a huge amount in my career.
Rewinding back, just for those that didn't listen to podcast number 14, your playing career, it was truly exceptional in terms of you rocketed down from a high handicap to pretty much a scratch golfer very, very quickly. Then went on this fast track scheme with some wonderful coaches, and then obviously you got hit with injury. Just in a nutshell, because I think it's easy for people to see you on television, and there's people that are on television that have won majors or whatever, like, yeah, I trust that person because they've been in golf and stuff. But you have a very, very learned golf background. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, I was multi-sport athlete growing up. I had two big brothers, and, every day as a kid, I was just playing sport. So I was very lucky that those skills were transferable to golf, because I didn't start playing golf until I was 19. And at that point, I was an international field hockey player, lacrosse and athletics. And,
international in all three?
Yeah, and squash as well, actually. But so I loved anything that was a racket or throwing, like in athletics, believe it or not, I threw the javelin. Really? And hockey, obviously there's a lot of hand-eye, sticking a ball. Lacrosse is the same thing. It's like, it's all hand-eye. And I had a quick arm, I could throw far, I could throw fast, and that transferred really well into golf. And there was this sport transfer scheme taking place called Gold for Glasgow, which was identifying elite athletes in Scotland who were part of team sports and trying to pull them into individual pursuits to increase Scotland's medal chances at the Commonwealth Games. And that ignited an idea and a spark in my head, I suppose, of, maybe I should, there's another sport I should be doing. Is this the right sport for me? Hockey is really where I was putting all my eggs at that time. And hockey's a great sport, and I had so much fun. But to be a professional field hockey player is a tough thing, and it's still tough to have a career. And just by luck, I had gone to watch the AIG Women's Open, which had a different name at the time, but it was in action. And I went to watch it, and I saw Katrina Matthew, I saw Kylie Walker, two great Scottish players. I remember seeing Paula Creamer, and I was like, this is amazing. This is the best sport. I want to do this. I've got to get myself on that side of the ropes. And every time I come back and I work at the AIG Women's Open, I'm reminded rather of that time. And it was so clear to me the moment I was inspired to become a professional golfer. So I went back to the scheme that we're running, Gold for Glasgow, the Scottish Institute of Sport, and I said, listen, I know that golf's not in the Commonwealth Games, but is there any chance you would back me to try and be a late starter?
Oh, right. So this wasn't even like we have a golf scheme.
No, not yet. So basically, like we were saying about partnerships and so much of life, I strongly believe, is just like what you make it. Like this was not an opportunity for me to become a golfer, but by asking and I just made one up. I just made an opportunity up to begin with, because I went back to them and I said, listen, can I do this? And I remember sitting with them in Glasgow in the National Performance Centre, and them kind of looking at me with blank faces and looking at the list of sports that they were kind of trying to fast track athletes into. And none of them were games. They were all power sports. The lower skill, in inverted commas, like not still very highly skilled, but more raw power, like explosive sports that you could in theory more easily understand how you could shortcut them, because you get really fit, physically explosive, and apply that to, track cycling or flat water canoeing was one I was listed for. And we did all these different sports, and then things that were slightly more highly skilled in a game sense, in like a rather than just an explosive power sport, were out of the question, and it was just not an idea. So I remember them saying to me, look, this is not on the list, but if you're really serious about this, we'll give you 6 months. Call us back in 6 months and let us know if you start how you're getting on.
And so you hadn't started at all by this point?
I'd played like one round with the hockey girls, and I remember that round really clearly. It poured with rain. I played with my friend Amy Gibson and a couple of the other girls, and I remember I said to them, I'm going to be a professional at this, and they were like, you're mental. No, you're not. That's ridiculous. So
and
then
you're 19?
I was 19. So 6 months out, that's all I needed to know. There was a chance. There was a chance, and all I needed was someone to say, okay, you got a chance. So I went away for 6 months, and they set me up with, oh no, they actually didn't do this yet. So I went away, I joined a club called Ranfurly Castle, and it cost me £50 a month. And I remember I had a student loan at the time because I was a student, and I would pay my £50 a month, and I'd play in the ladies' medals. And my first handicap was 19. And I remember
pretty low for a first handicap anyway.
And then I remember you had to put your 3 cards in, and I shot like 120, 110 and 109 or something. And it was, but my card would go like
par, quad.
No, it'd be like, no, there was no pars. It was it'd be like triple, eagle, birdie, quadruple. It was like completely like this. And then I remember when the handicap of 19 came back.
The old system used to be like, you put in 3 cards to start, and they'd almost like make an eclectic, wouldn't they?
And the handicap secretary would ultimately have the final say, because my handicap shouldn't really have been 19, but because this handicap secretary could see there was quite a significant number of eagles and birdies, they chopped it down a wee bit further, start at 19. So I was absolutely buzzing with that handicap. I remember being like, yes. And then 6 months, I just played a lot. I didn't have any lessons, but I was just playing, and I managed to get my handicap down to 12. So I 6 months later, I went back to the same people at the Scottish Institute of Sport, and I said, I've been playing for 6 months, just like you said. Now I play off 12, and I'm loving it more than ever. Could you help me get some lessons? And they connected me. They said, all right, here's this girl again. She's not giving up. She's hanging around this one. We'll connect her. So they've kindly connected me with the national coach at the time, who was called Kevin Craggs. He's now in America, in Florida, and I just actually did a testimonial for his new website. But really? I went to Kevin, and he was in Kirkliston, I think, and that was really the beginning of the next chapter. And I remember going to see Kevin and saying, this is ridiculous. I know this sounds crazy, but I've only been playing for 6 months and I want to be a pro. I'm now creeping towards 20 years old and I need your help. And he was like, I think you can do it. I can see what you've got and I'm going to help you. And I was like, yes, like this is the best thing ever. I can't believe my luck. So Kevin gave me a handful of lessons and my handicap in the next few months came tumbling down to 4. And I got selected very controversially, I remember, for the county. So I played, after playing golf for less than a year, I got selected for Renfrewshire County, and they were quite a strong county, and we went to the county jamboree, and I remember thinking, you know, this is a bit naughty, like I'm ruffling feathers here because I haven't come through the junior ranks and bursting onto the scene like this. And I went to play in the Helen Home, which was like the Scottish Open, I suppose, amateur. It's called the Helen Home at Royal Troon, and I made the cut to play the final round, and I remember playing the final round with Olivia Mahaffey. And it was like this 4-club wind, and I remember having like the best day of my life, and I can't remember what I shot, but like 74 or something like that, and Olivia Mahaffey shot like 68 in this unbelievably difficult wind. And I remember being so impressed with her ball striking and her game, and I thought to myself, like, that's the next standard, like I'm getting closer, but that's the next thing. And then Kevin connected me with a famous Scottish female golfer called Janice Moody, who'd played in the Solheim Cup and was a great accomplished Scottish player, and she was coming to play in the Scottish Open, and he'd asked Janice if I could caddy for her. And so I went to caddy for her, and she was absolutely gracious and so kind to me, and let me, you know, carried her bag. And I remember just thinking, I want to play in this event so much one day, and I'm so glad I'm here. Anyway, I'm probably boring everyone at home with this story, but long story short, I then got invited onto a sport transfer scheme down in England after my performances. You know, I was playing amateur elite competitions and things, and they had this acceleration performance going on down out of Wentworth. Yeah. And that was when I just had the chance of a lifetime to have some really good coaching, and I needed good coaching because I'd only had like 5 lessons with Kevin Cragg. So it was very raw, and I just needed some support around me, and this was my chance. And I went down to Wentworth and I began this accelerated performance program. And in that first 12 months, I worked with a brilliant coach called Christian Baker, who's now at Sunningdale Heath. And he helped me take my handicap from 4 to +4 in 12 months. And we broke 3 course records. I played 2 at Wentworth. I played for Surrey County, which was an absolute honour and a joy, and I loved being part of the Surrey team. Yeah, strong county. Made it to the county championship final and lost in the final against a brilliant golfer called Lizzie Pryor on the 18th at Royal Wimbledon. She eagled the final hole to beat me, but to make it into the final,
it's good eagle on
was
Royal Wimbledon.
Drivable par 4. Yeah. So I had brilliant times, and, you know, my golf was I was just madly in love with the game and just loving playing, and everything was looking like it was going great, Tom. You know, it was just like, this is it, you know, this is really going to be a dream come true. And for my family who were worried about me, thought I'd lost the plot, you know, I was going to be able to say, look, I made this dream a reality. But unfortunately, you know what happened next. And in the second year of the program, I got this injury in my wrist, and it went from bad to worse, and ultimately became a career-ending injury.
So what was the injury? It was
a repetition injury, so very common in golf, but I think I hope that people will continue to talk and write about wrist injuries, in particular in women's golf, and how many careers are ended because of wrist injuries. And actually, last year I had the pleasure of going to the west coast of America to see Titleist Performance Institute, some of the best trainers in the world, and they said that the wrist injury is the #1 career-ending injury in golf, and the shoulder is #2. And I had the wrist, and it's not uncommon, but I just wish I'd known what I know now, because I would have approached things very differently.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because if you don't train as hard, perhaps you don't get as good. It's so...
Yeah, but I definitely hit too many balls. I mean, I was a complete ball basher, and I should have spent half the time hitting those balls on the putting green and the chipping green. And then when my injury got sore in the beginning, I should have let it rest. It's all shoulda, woulda, coulda stuff now, but I should have let it heal. I didn't, because I was on this kind of accelerated performance program, and there was checkpoints I had to hit. I remember in the first year, I arrived playing off 4, and I had to get to scratch to be allowed to continue into year 2. Yeah. So I well exceeded exceeded that because I obviously got to +4. But then in the second year, there was new criteria. So I was under pressure to perform, and I didn't want to let people down. And it's very hard to tell an athlete to stop if they're injured, because all you want to do is keep going.
And I think, you know, your career comes to an end, I suppose. And I mean, it is shoulda, woulda, coulda. What could have been, you know, you could have been, you could be playing today for all we know. I mean, you've got no idea. But
no idea.
That's not how it panned out. You got into presenting.
I got into presenting, and, you know, that's been my life for the last 5 years. But it kills me not to be able to play and to not be playing this event. Like, it still kills me to this day. And, you know, I'm just being really honest with you here in this podcast, but, you know, I handle that in my own way. But like, looking out this window now at the course and being out there today, like, it kills me. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You get like a sense of frustration when you're out there?
It's just sadness, really, because like you say, I'll never know. You know, I'll never know. But what I will say is that last year I did try and qualify for the AIG Women's Open, and I went to Delamere to the pre-qualifying. But the problem is that the pre-qualifying falls after I've just worked the Scottish Open and the Open for Sky.
Yeah.
So I'm physically very, very tired, and those weeks, and mentally, I mean, they're extremely draining. The Open Championship, you know, we're up at like 6 a.m. every day, and most nights I wasn't getting home till 11 o'clock at night. So I'm clocking lots and lots of steps as an on-course commentator. So physically very tired. And I remember going to Delamere after just feeling exhausted, and I wasn't far away in the end, despite having 2 double bogeys on my card. But you know, I missed it by a handful of shots really to get to the next round, but it wasn't a fair chance for me because I was so tired. So this year I didn't bother trying to do it again, because I learned from the last time, like, I'm just too tired. It's unrealistic. These girls are brilliant, you know, and even the girls at pre-qualifying are fantastic, and they're so sharp. They're brilliant at their game, and they've been working on it all year. So that isn't going to work. So basically the only thing I can do, and next year might be the year I do it, is just take a break from Sky and say, right, I'm going to give myself this opportunity, because I don't want to be back on tour again, you know, and it'd be unrealistic for me to think I could be, because the girls are so fantastic, but also my wrist couldn't hold up. Like, it's better now, but it's not good enough to be out there week in, week out. But it's got a good week in it, my wrist, and all I want is to play in the AIG Women's Open just once. I just want to play in it once. That's it, because it was the tournament that inspired me to play the game, and that is all I want. I just want to play in it once.
So your wrist now is in a position where, because obviously you do a lot of content where you play golf. Yeah. You can play now.
Absolutely, I can. Yeah, I can play, and it's not totally pain free, and I have to play with tape on my wrist, and the odd you know, paracetamol, but it's more than good enough to play like a half decent round of golf, and it continues to get better. I've done loads of different therapies on it, and it's got stage 4 osteoarthritis, so that's the official diagnosis of my wrist now. But it's good enough. I found I've changed my swing a lot to release the club a little bit earlier, so, you know, it isn't perfect, but I definitely think it's good enough to do something and to play. Had some great rounds of golf since then. So, but it would require taking a step away from Sky, and it would require some practice.
The Sky thing's really interesting, isn't it? Because one door closes, another door opens. You are unable to play competitive golf anymore, and then you start going into the presenting world and ultimately end up with Sky. You've had some, I mean, since we last spoke on air, I mean, you've had some wonderful opportunities and wonderful things that have happened to you with presenting. I mean, things like the Ryder Cup, things like the Open. I mean, it seems like things are going, from strength to strength for Iona.
Well, it's been an amazing few years, and that's the beautiful thing about the story, is that while it was devastating at the time, around the corner was another wonderful opportunity for me, and I've been so fortunate in my life to have these opportunities. And you know, the playing career was done, but the talking a very good game was just beginning.
I can always talk a good game. That's fine.
And now I'm an expert talker. So, yeah, it's been brilliant to be part of the Sky Sports golf team. And
did you always have the gift of the gab, or did it sort of come?
No, I don't think so. No, I think I'm actually, you know, it's all been an accident really. And although I love people and I love so much of my job, I'm actually quite introverted really, and I'm probably more shy than people might think in many ways. And I never, you know, golf's a very solo thing, you know, and you know, when you're a professional golfer, you're generally quite a selfish person, just like focusing on your own game. I could have days just being on my own and I'd be totally happy. And being thrust into this, you know, job where there's people everywhere, and there's a limelight, and there's a, you know, a stage that comes with that, I suppose, has been really, it's been a lot, and there's been a lot of highs and lows in that journey. It's not all been plain sailing, but the Sky team and being with Sky Sports Golf has been an amazing opportunity, and one I'm really, really grateful for, because, you know, it wasn't planned. There are so many brilliant broadcasters in the world, and, you know, I didn't see any of it coming.
Do you find the fame bit hard?
Well, I think thankfully I don't even know if you could say I'm famous. I'm like so unbelievably, my fame is so.
I think you're being modest.
No, it's so minute that it's only really I only ever really recognize that at golf tournaments or in very, very small niche golfing towns.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could get that. But
and I think the golfing community are so lovely, like such nice people, and generally very kind and considered people. I think golfers, if we summarize them, are quite like that. Yeah. And people have been so kind and generous. And, you know, I think in my 5 years of having a profile and it's growing on social media, like, touch wood, this will be the kiss of death now and wait for the hate comments to come in, but I've probably been trolled like twice.
Sorry, I was drunk. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I deleted it afterwards.
So I think I've been really fortunate, but it's sometimes been hard to know how to handle that and how to sort of accept that, I suppose, because it was, as I say, it wasn't really planned.
Well, last year at Troon for the Open, Sam and I were, I forget the green, 14, doesn't really matter, and hospitality must have been, I'd say, 250 yards to our right, the entrance to hospitality. And we saw Rick Shields walking up towards it.
Yeah.
And Sam nudges me and said, watch this. And then he got stopped for a selfie.
Yeah.
It must have taken him 20 minutes to walk that. And he just kept saying, like, he was really polite about it. And he's like, sorry, I do need to go. And the next, but then there's a queue.
Uh-huh.
And you're like,
yeah,
I'm not
but
sure.
He's mega famous, you know, his profile is huge, and there's people that stop me and ask me selfies and stuff. I'm delighted to do that because it's just a small handful really, and they're so lovely, and it's nice to meet people. But, you know, we're living in this world with social media and content, and that's the generation that we exist in right now. And, you know, I have obviously established a voice in that space, and being part of the Sky Sports Golf team, you know, you do have a profile of sorts, I suppose, and you know, right now it thankfully has been a really positive experience.
Tell us about again, since we last spoke, some of the things that you've done in the world of presenting. And I do want to get onto the content, but the world of presenting have been, I imagine, truly frightening. Tell us a little bit about Ryder Cup.
Well, the Ryder Cup in Rome in Marco Simone 2023, I mean, that was the first Ryder Cup I'd ever been to. And the whole thing was just an incredible week, you know, the venue, the atmosphere, being on course, commentating on match play, very different experience to commentating on stroke play. It was absolutely out of this world. I was like in the stands in the morning, part of the build up, and
were you doing the big clap?
I was doing the big clap, and you know, there's these great clips online. I've got a couple on my Instagram of being there and singing and dancing with some of the fans, and this was all live on air. I remember seeing Nick Doherty studio to the right of the first tee, and he was live on air, and I remember watching him throw up to me. I couldn't hear a thing, so I could just see him point like this, so I just assumed they've come to me.
There's like a little light come on to say, now you're live. Or
there's sometimes a producer, there wasn't in this case, who would go like this to cue you, but it was just the cameraman and me. So I see Nick go like this, and I can't hear a thing. So I'm thinking, well, worst case, they'll just take my mic out if it's not my turn. But it was, thankfully, and I just thanked him and picked up and then started sort of singing with the crowd. And it was actually, it was a brilliant moment during the week. But then of course the icing on the cake
Do you know
was
what you're doing there, or is it like, are you just, okay, please take this with the respect that it's meant, are you just winging it?
Oh, I'm totally winging it. I mean, the great thing in television is like you just have to be yourself, and you have to you know, we've all been the viewer at home. I've been the viewer at home watching the golf and, you know, thinking, wow, like that looks amazing, you know, sitting on the sofa with a whiskey and a packet of crisps thinking that looks epic, like just soaking it in. So I suppose being like an avid sport watcher growing up and all my life like helped me in the presenting, because I can relate to it as a viewer, and really I'm just there as one of the viewers, but I'm actually in situ because not everyone can be in the grandstand on the first tee at the Ryder Cup. So I'm there on behalf of the people, and I'm bringing it back home to their living rooms. And no, you're totally winging it, but you're just being yourself and doing the best you can. And
do you know how long you've got when, you know, you're getting this arm throw that's like, yeah, it's on you, Iona, and you're like,
no, I mean, generally, most things in TV are 90 seconds, like it's a minute and a half. You're never going to go wrong with a minute and a half. If you go over that, like, there's a chance there's a producer somewhere screaming, like, all right, take her mic out. You know, like, if you just ramble on, like, yeah, you're going to annoy somebody, because TV moves so fast.
Yeah.
You know, it moves so quickly. It's a soundbite here and there. And that's a big part of why I wanted to start On the Road with Iona, which I know we'll get to. But, you know, live television is so quick, and your contribution is usually a soundbite here and it moves on. And even more now in modern TV, like the great days of the BBC. Sorry, my stomach, I'm quite hungry. Making noises. The great days of the BBC and Peter Alice, you know, and Ken Brown, these great commentators, and the way that coverage used to exist was these sort of beautifully long lingering shots, and then they'd be sharing stories. And
Peter'd not say anything for like 3 minutes. You'd say something like, oh God, he's still there.
And like, wonderful big moments of silence, of nothing, or just the natural sound effects of the course. Now television, you'll notice it moves so much quicker, and it's shot, and they're cramming in so much more golf. And I think that's a reflection of the way that humans have evolved and the way that we all absorb content. I mean, on social media, we're just scrolling through things. And how often do you linger on something for more than 5-10 seconds?
Well, I mean, you are much more successful in the field, but as someone that also creates long form media, you know, you're targeting 2% of the population, because the other 98% just can't sit down for 20 minutes and watch something, because they just want. I read somewhere that it's not. Where was it? It might have been a Rory Sutherland thing or something, but it was about. It's not that we're getting dumber as a race, but we're literally evolving.
Right.
We're evolving to. There needs to be something to catch our attention, because we're so attuned now to know when it's not going to attract our attention, so we just move on more quickly.
It's interesting, because I was listening to a podcast the other day on Diary of a CEO. Don't know if you listened to that, Stephen Bartlett, but it was actually talking about the dopamine addiction that we have now, and how a lot of the reason for that is because we're constantly looking for these little dopamine hits in ways that we didn't used to, and our bodies are so addicted to dopamine through whatever it is that where we get the dopamine, whether it's, you know, whatever you choose to get your dopamine from in life. There's lots of different things, but it's more readily available. Like even, you know, just being able to order something on Deliveroo, or like things just happen immediately now. And you go on your phone, you scroll, and then when you're done scrolling on Instagram, you might go to X, or then you might go to Twitter, and Facebook, and then you might go to the news, and it's just the same, scrolling. You know, and this releases these chemicals in our brain, and I certainly don't know what's doing, and I don't think we can move as fast as technology's moving, and that's before we even tackle AI and what's coming into the world now.
Scary stuff. Diary of a CEO did a podcast with a guy called Chase Hughes, and he talked about this thing with social media. We'll get back on to topic in a minute. But what they do, and they've got it down to a science, where they hit you with something funny, then something sad, then something funny, then something sad, and then they sell. Because apparently this up-down thing of emotion then makes you more susceptible to,
more vulnerable
to purchasing. It's honestly, it's scary stuff.
That sounds really scary.
Really but bring it back to the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And you've got your 90 seconds. But you've also got a bit more than that when it comes to, you do the bit at the beginning, but then you've also got the bit at the end, which must have been a really nerve-wracking experience for you?
I think it was a real privilege, to be presenting the Ryder Cup in Rome to the winning European team. Loch Donald was just out of this world, incredible. And do you know what? This isn't going to make any sense, but it was probably the most calm I've ever felt in broadcasting. And I stood there in the baking sun. It was like 30 degrees. I had an umbrella up, my earpiece in, and I could hear there was a bit of carnage going on in the TV compound, and they were whizzing around waiting to throw down to the presentation. They actually had a power cut in the TV compound just before they threw to me. So they were transferring across to the generators, and it was like, TV is chaos and the viewer doesn't see all that's going on behind, but I can hear this going on. I'm thinking, I'm not even sure they're going to make it here. Like, this might get cut. Anyway, they've eventually they threw to me, and my producer David Mould said, "We're coming to you in a minute, Iona." In about 10 seconds I can hear the count 9, 8, and as the count's going on, my producer goes, "Don't F it up," like this. I was like, brilliant. And I just remember this
5,
weird calmness.
4, don't fuck it up. 2, 1.
It was the funniest thing, and I just felt like so calm. I remember just thousands of people in front of me,
and your voice has been projected.
Yeah. The annoying thing when you do a presentation, when it's being projected out and going on TV, is you can hear the reverberation coming back at you, like, I don't know, like a second later. And I was actually really worried when that happened, how Loch Donald and Zach Johnson were going to be able to answer my questions, because it's quite off-putting when you're hearing what you're saying a second later coming back at you. They both handled it brilliantly, and the whole thing, I couldn't really have asked for it to go any better. It was absolutely amazing, huge privilege, and I just don't know how I ended up in that situation, Tom. To this day, I just think, what is life?
You must get a phone call and someone says, "Oh, by the way, we're thinking of putting you on."
Yeah, it was a producer called Matt Wilkinson, and he was the one that called me up and said, "We'd like to give you this opportunity." And I really do thank him for that. And I saw him a couple of weeks ago at the Scottish Open, give him a big hug, and I'll always be grateful to have been given that opportunity. And if I never do it again, I will always have Rome, and I'll always have that moment in my career. And it was just amazing.
What was it like interviewing the losing captain?
That was tough. Zach Johnson, he didn't take his sunglasses off, and I think he probably had some bleary eyes under there.
Yeah.
It was a hard loss for the Americans, and as every Ryder Cup brings so much drama and emotion, and you could see the emotions were really running high, and the disappointment was palpable. So to interview him, I think I'm quite pleased with the way I handled it, and I'm glad that I didn't mess the whole thing up, because I could have really got chewed around and stumbled in my words.
Don't F her up.
Yeah, didn't F it up. But he did well, answered my questions, and then I remember him just finishing by going, "I love you guys," and looking at his team, and I couldn't tell if he was crying, and I thought, what am I going to do now?
He's coming for some stick about the whole thing, hasn't he? But
yeah, he's had a bit of a hard time. Anyway, then I had to say, the Americans will now move across and shake hands with the Europeans, and I had been told very specifically that I had to say this
to stop them just kind of walking off.
Yeah, to stop them walking off. So there was meant to be this moment where they came over and they shook hands and said goodbye and left the stage, basically. And I said this, and none of them moved. They just stood still, and my heart dropped to the floor, and I was like, I didn't think about what to do if this happened. So I kind of just stopped for a second.
Did they just not hear you, or?
I think they just didn't hear me, and they were comforting Zach Johnson, and they were kind of.
I say again, the Americans will now leave.
So no, but they were looking at me, so I was like, I don't think, because remember the whole bust up? They'd had this sort of bust up on the green, and McIlroy and the caddy, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's been some bad beef, and now they're not going to come and shake hands. So I just sort of stood there for a second. I thought, they're not coming, so I'm just going to carry on. So just as I was about to carry on with the ceremony and move on to the next bit, Jordan Spieth stepped forward and he led the team, and I was like, oh, and I actually said out loud on the mic, we're all very relieved, come along and shake hands. And then they went up the line. That took a little while, and that gave me a moment to kind of regroup and settle before I got to the good bit, which was interviewing Loch Donald.
Yeah. Not only have you done Ryder Cup, you've also done the Open at your hometown.
Yeah, that was really emotional. 2022 150th Open Championship in St Andrews, all my family there, people that meant so much to me in my life, and have supported me through the highs and the lows. So it's good.
I can see that it still touches you.
Yeah.
What is it that is hitting a nerve so much about that?
I don't know. That's caught me off guard, actually.
I mean, it's interesting because, you've clearly had a lot of highs and a lot of lows in golf, but to stand on, on the most hallowed of links turf and be able to be involved in the Open. I know that you wanted to be involved in an Open in a different way, but
yeah. No, I think what's made me cry there is probably the Loch Lomond, but also
don't blame the product.
But it's also just the people I've had in my life, just the support that I've had. It's just been, I've been so lucky to have, good people in my life and friends that have really supported me and listened to all my crazy ideas and just loved me anyway. And, working in the media, you're absent for a lot of things. You miss a lot of family things and you're working every weekend. So it's very antisocial, actually. And the people you're out on tour with, they kind of become like your family, and you do miss a lot of things at home. And it just, I suppose in that sense, like the support I've had from my family and friends has meant even more to me, just because like I've not always given them a lot in return.
Yeah. It's very tough doing what you do, because I remember being at the Dunhill last year, and for some reason Sky were in the media tent, which they're not usually, and I saw Nick and Tim Barter, and you guys like sneaky work hard. Like there's a lot of effort. Like Tim was there with. He must have had like a dozen notebooks.
Yeah, no one works harder than Tim. Like Tim really is he's one extreme. He takes it, really very seriously, and he's a great journalist and asks great questions as a result. He's a very hard worker, as is Nick. I mean, people wouldn't believe the hours that Nick, being lead anchor at the Open Championship, the hours that he works. He's on air on Thursday, Friday from 6:30 in the morning. They see every single shot, and then he closes the show at night. And yeah, to be in TV, you work hard, and it's high energy and sometimes quite high stress, and sometimes I think I'm on my way to an early grave, but it's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of energy, and it's very exciting. And
do you find it rewarding?
Yeah, I mean, it has been very rewarding. The most rewarding thing about it, I think, is the challenge of it, and then doing it. Driving home, that drive on a Sunday night after the Open's finished, and sometimes I've presented the claret jug to the winner, sometimes I haven't, but like this year, for example, I was commentating on Rory McIlroy at Royal Portrush on a Sunday at the Open. I mean, that was just an amazing day. And you put the mic down, you go back to the TV compound, and it's a dusty mess of a place after a long week of everyone trucking through it, and you drop your kit off and you say thanks to the techie team, and they're the ones that see you through like all the highs and the lows, and you give everyone a hug, and then you get in the car and you're driving home wherever the Open's been. I remember after we finished in Hoylake, I was soaked to the core, and I remember stopping at the service station and getting a Leon, that fast food, and bumping into all these golf fans. Yeah, and like just seeing all these people. But that drive home, you feel very satisfied that you've survived another Open.
You must do a lot of travel. A huge part of the Cookie Jar Golf podcast is service stations.
Yeah.
What's your number one service station?
T-Bay, 100%.
No.
T-Bay, all day. No, I have to tell you a story.
If you like an overpriced sausage roll, T-Bay is the one. But
T-Bay is all I'm trying to get to. If I'm driving from the south to the north, T-Bay is like, the place.
Iona, you have to venture out.
Okay.
Even around T-Bay, there's some really good services.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Like
especially
nice farm
southbound
shops and stuff.
No.
I like sort of farm vibes.
We're starting to come towards like service stations with lakes.
Okay.
It gets to the point we've got one listener which voice notes me through Instagram every time he's at any service station. He's like, this is about this one now. And I think there's a few things with service stations. The walk, first of all, the drive to the car park can't be massive. You want to just slip off, You want to slip off the motorway. And T-Bay's quite good for that. I'll give you that.
Quite good. Yeah,
and
it's usually raining there,
quite quickly. There's no roundabouts or anything. It's pretty good. Then the walk to the service station's got to be low. The choice of things. Teabay's limited. It's a it's got nice
it's
things,
limited, but it's hitting all the key points for me. It's hitting the things I really like.
It's also a chain.
It's a chain now, but I don't know if it always was. I'm very happy to take your suggestions, and actually I feel my service station knowledge is pretty limited. So
right. No,
I'm happy
I'll send you a list.
I'm happy to put my hands up and say I should do better.
Okay. And if you're going to go somewhere, you need a Leon, do you?
No, I don't need a Leon, but I really do think that a good cup of coffee is high on the agenda for me, and I don't actually think the coffee at Teabay's all that to write home about. It's a little bit
favorite
milky.
Coffee brand?
I mean, I don't like any of the chains.
Oh, good. You like to go a bit sort of independent coffee shop sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm looking for the strong stuff, like the kind of rogue Aussie that's come over and has set up a proper coffee shop.
The one that makes your eyelids kind of half closed.
Yeah, that's my kind of coffee. And actually, my family are really responsible for this, but I drink extremely strong coffee.
Oh, do you have a cut-off time in the day for coffee?
Not really. No, I drink it. I mean, I try not to have more than maybe 4 cups a day, but and I could probably drink a cup of coffee at 6 o'clock at night, even 8 o'clock at night. I'll have an espresso after dinner and I'll sleep like a baby.
Oof, no, not for me. You, like you said, you commented on Rory in the final group.
Yeah. He was in the penultimate group, yeah. But we were hoping he was going to make a run, so that was really the story of the Sunday. It was like, can Rory do? Because on Saturday,
he was class on Saturday,
and I also commentated on Saturday, and he started birdie, par birdie, I think it was, and I was like, right, here we go.
I was in the spectator village, which is probably 500 yards away from the 12th when he held that eagle. And they hadn't showed it on the big screen yet, but the noise which came across was just...
It was incredible.
Unbelievable.
That Saturday on the Open, I have to say, is really one for the memory bank. Like, that was a day for the books.
Yeah. What's it like transitioning from doing the presenting side to a role which I imagine is a lot more technical in the on-course side of it?
Yeah. I think that's been one of the most challenging things about working in the media is like, I've been a jack of all trades, and I've been one of the people that's been moved around different roles. And I remember my boss at the beginning saying, I'm going to try on all these different roles and it's going to feel like a lot. And he wasn't lying. It felt like a lot. And it was really hard because you pick up the cadence of a job and the rhythm of that particular skill. And then if you go to the next week and you're doing something else, you almost feel like you're starting all over again. And in the beginning, I did some on-course commentary and I did a lot of the in-round interviewing.
That's got to be tough as well.
This is tough. They all have their own challenges, but as my skill set's developed and I suppose my experience has increased, I've focused more on course commentating and eventually stepping into that presenting role. I still do the odd bit of interviewing. I did it at the Scottish, but I don't really do that in-round interviewing role anymore. And ultimately you can't continue to be a jack of all trades. You kind of have to pick your speciality and niche, really. And on-course commentating and presenting are my 2 chosen directions to go in. And right now where I'm trying to keep developing my skills.
Because the on-course stuff, you need to know certain things like basic things about you need to be able to work out yardages pretty quickly. You need to do that for multiple different balls. You need to know when to speak, when not to speak, how to let the silence fill. How talk to the difficulty of that maybe, because I know listening to this question now, I never know when to stop talking. So how is that bit?
Yeah, I guess it's a rhythm thing. So you can either pick up on the rhythm of it or you might struggle to do that. But one of the things about on-course commentary is you've obviously got the program and the director and the producer in your ear. And predominantly the producer, so you're listening to, and the program, you can't stop listening. You have to keep listening to everything. And you might not come in for the first hour and a half of the show. So, you're kind of just listening. And then eventually, and there's lots of visual cues, like you never do the opening tee shot, but they're going to come to you to introduce you for their first approach shot on the opening green. But they might not come back to you until the 3rd hole, or you might not get back in again until the 4th hole. So you can have these long periods where you're just really concentrating on what's being said on the program and you're concentrating on what your group are doing. But there's huge technical aspects to it, and making sure you're standing in the right position. You know, you don't want to put the players off, but you need to be close enough that you can actually see what's happening.
Yeah.
I'd say the hardest thing about on-course commentating is actually getting the read on the green, because unlike the player, and you know, as a golfer, you want to get in there and stand behind it. You want to kneel down, have a look at the line. That's how you read a putt.
Yeah.
And for your whole life, that's how you've read a putt. As an on-course commentator, unless you're the final commentator on a Sunday only, you're allowed on the green if you're in that group, and you can have a cheeky look, but you're not like allowed to go in there and start sort of, you know.
Sorry, the final group on Sunday only.
Because it's the only time there's not a group coming behind you ever.
Okay.
So
right,
you're
yeah.
allowed to step on the green, but only for a second, just to have a little glance. But for the remainder of the week, you're not going on the green. You're reading the putt from afar, and that is so hard. It's really, really hard. And then they're coming down to you going, so what's this putt going to do, Iona?
God knows.
Thinking, oh, and you know, sometimes you've seen it, it's really obvious. But a really good trick for any aspiring on-course commentators out there is to actually position yourself in the crowd down the line of the putt. So either behind the player, like in the crowd, so you're not putting them off, but you're down the line of it. So when they throw to you and say, what's this putt doing? You can come up with a few words until you actually see where they're aiming. You can stand behind them and go, you know, this is definitely going to break off the left, because you can see now they're aiming to the left.
Yeah.
So they've taught you. But sometimes, especially in hot countries like Dubai, where the sun's so bright and the glare on the greens and stuff, sometimes I'm standing there thinking, you could pay me £1 million and I do not know what this putt's going to do. And then the player stands in.
No idea.
Not a clue. And you know, there's so many ways you can work around that, and that's then about timing of your words. So you're saying you've got to think of something else to say for about 4 seconds before you can say, and he's going to have to start this 2 cups on the left, and then because you can now see he's aiming or she's aiming there. But it's a brilliant job. I've had Ken Brown as a mentor for my on-course commentating, and
he was there on. He's not always around, is he, Ken? But he was there at Portrush, wasn't he?
He was there at Portrush, and he is a wonderful friend. He's become a real treasured friend in my life, and just such a great mentor and support. And, you know, he's a great commentator, obviously a legend of the game, Ken on the course. Who doesn't love Ken on the course?
What a good guy.
Yeah.
You obviously have got this wonderful presenting career, but you've decided as well to tack on the road with Iona, which is a big passion project for you. It's your YouTube channel. It just in a nutshell, if anyone is not to know what On the Road with Iona is, what is your philosophy? What are you trying to do?
So On the Road with Iona is a platform that's been designed to create content to inspire and uplift people. And we try to tell stories at a slightly slower pace to a lot of the media in this day and age. And we hope that this content and some of these stories with inspiring people from inside and outside the ropes of golf will in turn inspire people in their own lives to maybe be a better parent or more present in their relationship, or go for that thing in life they've been too scared to go for, or be kinder to themselves. You know, there's so many parallels, as we know, in the game of golf to the game of life, and we use golf as a catalyst to talk about life really in this channel. And we have great guests that come on and share their highs and lows with us. And through sharing their stories and asking questions and understanding their journeys, I hope that, you know, our audience can take a lot away from that, because as we've discussed in this podcast already, the biggest asset we have as humans is our time. And when somebody gives you their time, I mean, that is the biggest gift on earth, you know. To have somebody give you their time and to be present in that time is such a gift. And when people watch On the Road with Iona, which is obviously our YouTube channel, they're giving us 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of their time. And we don't want to waste their time. We want them to feel like at the end of watching one of the episodes we have that they go, that was time well spent. I'm so glad I watched that.
What was the catalyst for starting the whole thing?
I remember it was really, I had the idea back in 2020 during lockdown, but
When you were making cocktails.
I was getting drunk in my loft. But I think going into live TV and the pace of it with Sky in 2020, because previously I'd worked for Golfing World, and it was a slower pace of media, and I really wasn't feeling satisfied with my contribution to the world of golf, and I felt like I wanted to create a place where we could go slower. And we could take our time over pieces of content and try to get a little bit deeper with what's really going on and what's this all about, what's this game of golf? Why does it strike a chord with so many people? And I think, I also wanted to get, to have a chance for, maybe the audience to get to know me a little better and to spend more time with interesting and inspiring people, because, as I say, everything about live TV is so fast and it can feel very surface a lot of the time, but nothing will ever trump somebody holding a winning putt to win a trophy. Like, that is just epic, and that's what live sport's all about, because there's something on the line. And that's just totally different from what we're doing. Nothing about what we do on the channel is really competitive. It's about, it's about friendship and it's about human experience.
You got the chase in the red there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in there. We haven't done much of that this year, which is quite sad. And again, another reason why I didn't go for qualifying this year, because I haven't played as much with a card in my hand. And chasing the red is really just a good excuse for me to play more competitive golf. We love that series, and we definitely haven't stopped it, and we hope to do more of it.
I think what's interesting from my point of view is I watch your content, and it's interesting the way that you describe it, because I'd say it's very narrative driven, which is not always the case amongst all content creators. When we started doing cookie jar videos, we wanted to tell, originally it was a story of a golf club, was the series that we ran, which was, we wanted to tell stories about golf clubs and make the golf club the star of the show, not the person. Can I break 75 around here, which is, it's just them on repeat, and it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Your content seems to be similar in a way that it's not necessarily, it's not about you, and it's much more about the narrative. What stories have come out, or what people? I mean, you've had some fabulous people on, like Butch, and I mean, that was incredible.
That was a good one. Yeah, Butch Harmon, Sam Torrance, Adam Scott, Kelly Slater, Renee Powell, Dame Laura Davies.
The Dame.
Yeah, the Dame. We've had fabulous guests. Yeah, really great.
And how do you decide what string you're going to pull on when you meet with those people, and what you're going to do with them?
A lot of it's very organic, and as you'll know, when you interview someone, it's about kind of, you think you can have the best laid plans of where you think the interview is going to go. But I think the best interviews I've ever been a part of have been genuine conversations. Like, you're just having a chat like you would with your mates, and you don't go in to meet your mate for a drink and you think, right, these are the three things we're going to talk about, and I think that is the essence of a good conversation. And of course, I've done my research, and I know there's things we can pull on and things we can talk about, but generally the conversation just evolves, and I try to let them guide that. And that's a little bit risky sometimes, because it can work sometimes, it can and it cannot, but so far it's been pretty good. There's obviously some key things that we want to touch on with certain guests, like with Kelly Slater. It was like trying to understand this sort of obsessive nature, and how you can excel and be the absolute goat of your sport, to speak to someone about greatness and what it takes to be great. So you can't let that interview come and go without touching on that. And he was so open, for a guy I didn't really know, because a lot of the guests I've kind of been people I know and have a relationship with already, I've worked with or in some capacity. That wasn't the case with Kelly Slater, and he was one of our first episodes, and for him to be so open and honest with me was a real privilege, and I was very grateful for him to be like that. But yeah, a lot of it's very organic, and we use golf as the icebreaker, and it always works to get out on the course first.
You've had it, because you not only do it with these really big names. I mean, again, we're sat here in Royal Porthcawl. You've done one here with Peter, and then I believe you've done one with a very, very good friend of the pod. So we've got a sister podcast, the Badgers pod, and James Bledge. So you've done one with
Ledge.
James, haven't you? Yeah.
Absolute legend.
Hoylake.
Total legend. Yeah. We did a preview for Hoylake and spoke from the greenkeeper's point of view, the course manager. point of view. And his insight was top drawer, telling us all about what the changes and the real detail and preparation that goes into an Open Championship. And that was one of our most successful pieces on the channel. People, and you know, it's amazing when you bring these guests on and you shine a light on them, and they pick up their own little following. And we've got a lot of Bledge fans on the channel that absolutely loved him. And
I'll have to edit that out. What has been the most fulfilling part of your own content that you make? You can take that from, I mean, you have had the highest of highs. You know, Adam Scott is, you know, what a guy to have on with the best swing and made pretty much every cut of every major ever. It's been like 75 consecutive majors, something like that.
Yeah.
And then you get people like Bledge and Peter. And what's been the most fulfilling part for you?
It's a great question. It's quite tough to answer, but my gut reaction to that is a piece that we did this year for an amazing woman that I happened to meet in Kenya called Jackie Walters. And this wasn't a planned piece of content, but I think that it's quite telling actually this is my answer, and that really it's probably going to dictate and influence more of what I do in the future and what the channel tries to do. But I feel like if you're creating content and you manage to amass an audience, like we should put that audience to good use. Like we're trying to be a force for good in this channel. Like we're trying to be a safe space where people can come and like leave on the road with Iona. If they've given us 10 minutes, half an hour, or they've gone like down a total rabbit hole of our content and we've been in there for 2 hours, they've left after 2 hours thinking like, I feel better after watching that. You know, and I just think in life we need more of that. And that if you do have an audience, like across On the Road with Iona and my own platforms, we have 500,000 people that we can connect to. And we should try and I should try and do better at trying to like have a positive impact in the world. And this is we had a tiny little example of this earlier in the year where I was covering the magical Kenya Open on the DP World Tour. And I was there, and I went on the Tuesday. I wasn't needed at work till the Wednesday, and I had my clubs with me because it's a sunny place and I wanted to get a bit of practice in. And I went down to this, like, found on Instagram, this place I could go and hit some balls. And I went down, and there was this pro there called Salim who very kindly welcomed me in and said, yeah, you can come and hit some balls, no problem at all. And he introduced me to this woman called Jackie, and he said Jackie's our assistant pro and she's in training, and she wants to become the first female PGA pro from East Africa. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's so cool. And I said, Jackie, like, do you want to play some golf? Like, do you want to play 9 holes later? And she was like, yeah, I'd like to. So I hit a few balls, and then later we went out and Jackie and I played 9 holes together. And during that round of golf, she told me about her story, which was incredibly moving. And, you know, she'd been orphaned as a young girl, and like the journey she'd been on since then was just, you know, facing a lot of hurdles, to say the least. And she had, you know, met Salim and had been welcomed into trying the game of golf down at Vipingo Ridge, where they have the LET Kenyan Open on the Ladies European Tour. And she told me, and I was like, okay, so how many other PGA Pro female professionals are there from East Africa? And she was like, there are none. And I was like, that is madness. I said,
it's a big area, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I was
Africa.
like, there's none. And she was like, no, you know, there had been a couple from the Kenyan PGA, but there was none from that very specific niche, but there was no female PGA accredited teachers. And anyway, she had aspirations of becoming the first, but she didn't have the money to do it. And she'd been offered a place at the Belfry to do this course, the 3-year course. And, you know, I spoke to Salim about it, the other pro, and I said, you know, what's going to happen? And he was like, well, you know, we've really tried to help support Jackie, but ultimately it's just going to be probably impossible, and, you know, it's not going to happen. And right there and then I was like, that we have to help. Like, On the Road with Iona as a community has to help. Long story short, I got a local camera operator in as quickly as I could. We did an episode. I played with Jackie. We did the usual style, and I interviewed her about a little bit of her story. And I attached a fundraiser to this video, and we've managed to raise the money to send Jackie to be the first PGA professional from East Africa. And to have an impact, an actual impact on people's lives. We can't help everyone in the world, and like sometimes that can feel really overwhelming and really hard because so much suffering in the world. But what gives me comfort sometimes is I think you can help the people that you come into contact with, and if we all do that, then at least that's like something,
Yeah.
So we can't fix everything, but we can have a little impact in our little worlds, our little bubbles. And I just totally randomly met Jackie, but that's what the golfing world is like. And I think about, again, the people who've helped me and given me a chance and gone, yeah, do you know what, you can come and try this, or I'll give you a break. You got to help people when they need help, and if you have a chance to. And I do think On the Road with Iona has a chance to help more people, and I really, really, really hope that we can.
I was going to ask you about goals, but I think you've just pretty much answered it. But how, I suppose, tying it all up and wrapping it all up, how do you, I mean, if you want to do more of that, how do you, it's really hard to stumble across people like that every 5 minutes. How do you go about meeting people that you can help?
Yeah, well, I definitely don't have the answer for that yet, because there's so many things there's so many people that need help, and ultimately I think you're never far wrong if you're helping the next generation, because ultimately to have opportunity is something that changes lives. And golf sometimes has been guilty of not having an open and inclusive enough policy to it, and a welcoming ethos. And I'm an ambassador for a charity called Big Change, which is an educational charity in the UK that help children to thrive, not just in the classroom, but in other walks of life. Like maybe it is media, maybe it's sport, maybe it's music. And that's been very fulfilling. And I continue to do a lot with them. But I think I'll come back to you on that one, Tom, because maybe the next time we chat, I'll have figured the answer out to that. Because I think you have to be quite selective. And you have to be quite focused, like you do with anything in life.
Yeah, I think you've also got to be very open-minded. You have to be willing to be approached and keep your eyes open for any opportunity that comes around. And you're never going to know where you're going to find the next story like that. But
you never know. But we might create something like an On the Road with Iona, fund, or like maybe a scholarship where we can help somebody in the UK. But I definitely would love to do something like that, where at least we know we're doing something, and it's changing somebody's life or contributing positively to somebody's life. But so I think that it's all very well in this life to take and to just like go about your business. And there's been so many amazing things that have happened to me in the last 5 years, but it's like, what are you actually contributing back? Like, what are you actually giving back? Because in the end of the day, when we all kick the dust, like, and we're out of here, like, what have you given? Like, what have you done?
Yeah, the pay it forward stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Iona, you're a very determined woman, so if anyone can do it, I'm sure it's you. You've been very, very generous with your time. Thank you so much for coming on
Absolute pleasure.
The podcast. What does this week look like for you? What have you got lined up before Sunday?
This is the eve of the AIG Women's Open. So tomorrow I'll be out with whoever's leading early on. So we come on air at midday and I'll be straight out there with the leader. So that's exciting to see them in from the early starters. And then I believe in the afternoon I'm on course with Nelly Corda. So that's a pretty solid place to start. What a golf swing. Yeah, great golf swing.
What a golf swing.
Jamie Mulligan, her coach, one of the great names in golf.
Have you spent any time watching Lottie?
Yeah, I have. I'm very proud that she's a Surrey gal. Saw some Farnham juniors out there today that were there. But yeah, I've spent a bit of time with her. She's so cool. Lottie
What an
Woad.
Unbelievable story.
Oh, she is an absolute legend. And I really wish her all the best. But what a start to her professional career, you know.
We had her on the podcast 7-8 months ago, 9 months ago maybe. And like since then, I mean, you literally could not write that story. It's a Cinderella story. And the fact that was she third in the Evian?
Yeah. As an amateur.
She didn't have the best Saturday, but
I think she started the final day tied for 20th or something.
Like 4 or 5 back, wasn't it? And then when lights out, could have been in a playoff, and then pro Scottish. Whew, what a story! I
know, Irish, Scottish,
and she's the favourite.
This is made for her this week. It is absolutely made for her.
Can you imagine if she wins? Her odds are like 6-1.
It'd be like one of the greatest stories of all time, really, in golf. It would
be the biggest. it's arguably as big an explosion onto the scene as Tiger.
Yeah, 100%.
To come through that amateur rank and then just explode onto the scene, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that as a venue, I know you played it with you on your channel. I think Porthcawl is just it's such a wonderful venue, and it sets up perfectly for an Open Championship or AIG Women's Open. I think it's going to be a wonderful week.
It is. I couldn't agree more. And to do I'm going to be doing at least 4 loops of it. So I'm looking forward to getting to know it.
Walk either.
Yeah, and it's going to be blowing over the next couple of days. So
I see you got the Whoop. Do you track your steps?
I do. Yeah.
What do you get on a normal?
On a tournament week like this, I'll be doing roughly 22,000 a day. That's what generally I get to. But I love my Whoop, and I love tracking my stats because my steps.
What's your recovery like? 0 every day?
No, recovery's all right. Depends how much Loch Lomond I drink. But I'm addicted to tracking my Whoop stats because if I do more than 12,000 steps a day, I get 8 vitality points, and that gets me a free coffee in the week. So
there we go. It's worth anyway. Whack the Whoop on the dog and
Absolutely.
just let it.
It's too clever for that.
Iona, thank you so much for joining.
Thank
the podcast.
you very much for having me back.
Watch this.